You ever hear a story that grabs you before you even know why? Something that gets under your skin and sits there waiting for the lights to go out, and then suddenly it hits you all at once. Well, this one is like that. So before we get going, I want you to tell me in the comments what you think causes a person to see themselves on the road. Is it time bending, a trick of the desert, or something else we are not meant to understand? And if you like stories that stick with you long after they end, make sure you subscribe, because the tale you are about to hear is one of the strangest I have carried with me through all my years. All right, settle in now. This is the story of the Desert Highway Loop, and I will tell it to you just the way I told it to my grandkids when they were old enough to understand that the world is not as simple as it looks on a map. I spent most of my life on the road, long stretches of quiet highway, the kind where the land flattens out and the sky looks wider than it has any right to be. Nevada has a few roads like that, but there is one in particular I never travel anymore. A narrow two-lane ribbon cutting through the Great Basin. No towns for miles, no gas stations, no signs of life except the dry brush trembling in the wind. You drive it long enough, you start to feel like the world has narrowed down to the humming of your tires and your own heartbeat. Folks say that is where the trouble begins. It started with truckers. You know how truckers talk. Straightforward, practical, no nonsense. So when a man who spends 40 years behind the wheel tells you he passed his own rig going the opposite direction, you pay attention. The first reports were almost casual. Drivers talking over coffee about seeing headlights in the distance that looked strangely familiar. A slow passing, two vehicles gliding by each other in a way that felt too smooth, too perfect. Some said the other driver looked just like them. Same jacket, same hat, same slump of the shoulders. They said the man would vanish the moment their eyes met. Most of us brushed it off as fatigue or desert heat, but then the missing hours began. The highway has a way of messing with your mind, but the desert introduces something heavier, silence you can feel, heat that bends the edges of the world. It tricks your sense of distance. It stretches time. Still, that does not explain what happened to those travelers who woke up miles from where they last remembered being with 2 or 3 hours gone, as if they had blinked. One of the first real cases I heard was a young couple who had been driving from Reno to Ely. Clear day, good weather, nothing unusual. They told me they saw an old blue sedan coming toward them. It looked plain enough, except when it got closer, the woman in the passenger seat tapped her husband's arm so hard she left a bruise. The driver of that blue sedan was him, not someone who looked like him. Not a coincidence. Him. Same beard, same sunglasses, same flannel shirt he had bought the week before. The couple slowed down as the car passed. The man in the other car did the same. The woman said she felt a cold thump in her chest, like a hand closing around her heart. And then the sedan disappeared behind them, not drove off. Disappeared. They woke up 90 minutes later, parked on the shoulder with the engine off and the doors locked. Neither remembered stopping. Neither remembered slowing down. Both of their phones showed the same missing 90 minutes. They said the air felt different when they woke, thicker, almost gritty, like the world had rearranged itself around them. Now I know what you might be thinking. Heat exhaustion, dehydration, hallucinations. I thought the same thing until I started hearing the stories from people who had no reason to lie. A retired state trooper, a rancher on his way to check fence lines, a woman in her 60s heading to visit her sister. All different ages, different backgrounds, But the same story, they saw themselves on that road. They passed their own vehicles. They woke up farther down the highway with hours missing. One of the strangest came from a fellow named Cooper Big Guy. Good sense of humor, not the type to scare easy. He told me he was driving east at dusk when he noticed a distant glow in the rearview mirror. He thought it was another car gaining on him, so he pulled slightly to the right. Instead of the lights coming closer, they stayed perfectly the same distance behind him, not gaining, not fading, just floating. He said it looked like two pale orbs hovering above the ground. After 20 minutes of this, he slowed to a halt. The light stopped too. When he stepped out of his truck, the air felt wrong, like it was pressing down on him. He walked toward the lights, but the closer he got, the farther away they seemed. Then, without warning, he was back inside his truck with his hands on the wheel. The sun had risen. He had lost almost 9 hours. You hear enough of these stories, and you start to look at that road differently. I avoided it for years until the day I ran into a friend of mine named Lawson. He was an old Navy man, sharp as ever, and not prone to tall tales. He said he had found something on that highway that made the hair on his arms stand up a loop, he called it. A place where the road folds in on itself even though it looks straight. You think you're driving forward, but you're just circling through some pocket of time. I thought he was joking until he showed me a photograph he had taken. It was a picture of his own truck taken from behind. Same truck, same license plate, same dent on the left bumper. But he was alone when he took that trip. There was no one behind him. He took the picture because he thought the truck behind him looked familiar. Only when he got home and compared the two trucks did he realize the truth. He had been following himself. The picture was time-stamped a full hour before the time listed in his phone's GPS logs, as if the photo had been taken before the moment it was taken. He made me promise never to drive that stretch again, and I kept that promise for a long time, but promises have a way of bending when curiosity gets heavy enough. One summer evening, when the sky was the color of warm copper and the heat rose from the pavement in waves, I decided to see for myself. I drove out there alone, slow and cautious, half expecting nothing at all. The highway was empty, no sound but the wind dragging across the desert floor. I drove for an hour. Nothing. Just when I was about to turn back, I saw a shape in the distance, a car, pale silver, gliding toward me without a sound. At first I felt nothing unusual, until I noticed the way it moved, smooth, steady, like it was sliding along the surface instead of rolling over it. And then I saw the driver, me, an older version of me, same sunspots on the arms, same scar across the eyebrow from a fishing hook when I was 9. He raised his hand slowly, almost like he was warning me. Then he passed, and in the moment our eyes met, I felt my stomach drop. The air around me vibrated like the world had been struck by a tuning fork. My vision flickered, and when it cleared, the sky was dark. My truck was parked on the shoulder. My watch said it was 3 a.m. The last thing I remembered was looking into my own eyes. I tried to start the truck. It took 3 tries before the engine finally caught. I drove home without stopping once. When I checked my phone later, the GPS history showed that my truck had driven the same 3-mile stretch 9 times in a row. A perfect loop. I have no memory of any of it. Some folks say that road is broken. Others say it is not broken at all. It is just thin. thin enough for time to seep through like water through canvas. Thin enough that sometimes you meet yourself coming the other way. And maybe the version you meet is not from your past or your future. Maybe it is from some side path your life could have taken if you had made one different choice. Or maybe it is something else wearing your face because it knows it is the one thing you would never question in the moment. Whatever it is, I do not go near that road anymore, not because I am afraid of seeing myself again. What scares me is the thought that one day it will not let me come back. So that is the story of the Desert Highway Loop, the road that folds time like paper and sends drivers back into their own path before they ever left it. Now, I want to know what you think. Is it the desert playing tricks on tired minds? Is it a tear in time? Or something older that lives out there where the land is empty and the sky never blinks? Tell me in the comments. I read them all. And if you enjoyed this story, subscribe so you do not miss the next one. There are plenty more roads out there that do not show up on any map. And I have a few more tales you might want to hear before you set out on your next long drive.